Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Conscious Living Spiritist group. We hope you and your family are well and healthy and blessed as we are all in this beautiful Sunday morning. We have today an opportunity to come together as friends or spirit of family, whatever we are around the world, not only here in South Florida, but anywhere. And we will start as usual with a reading today from the book Our Daily Bread. And we'll have an initial prayer. And then we have our dear brother Marcelo Netto with the lecture When a Little Bit Goes a Long Way. So this lesson is actually from the chapter 97. And the title of the lesson is Keep as Pattern. It is from the letter of Paul to Timothy, the second letter of Paul to Timothy. What you heard from me, keep as the pattern of sound teaching. Distribute the resources that Providence provided to your working hands. However, do not forget that the consoling words to the sickly represent a direct service from the heart in the cultivation of righteousness. The bread from the body is alms for which you will receive proper compensation, while a friendly smile is an eternal blessing. Send messengers to the fraternal aid, but above all, at least every now and then, do not overlook visiting the sick brother or sister and personally listen to them. The expedition of assistance is a gesture that will make you likable. However, your direct intervention of assistance to those in need will provide you with the spiritual preparation to face your own battles. Climb the platform and teach the path of redemption to all. But interrupt your discourse every now and then in order to listen to the laments of a companion of human experience, even if it comes from a child of despair or of ignorance, so that you do not lose track of the proportions in your path. Cultivate the flowers of the private garden of your loved ones, because without the flower bed of experience, it is difficult to follow the noble and intensive cultivation of the soil. However, do not flee from the human forest, fearing the worms and monsters that inhabit it, as it is crucial that you yourself prepare to advance within it in the future. In the circles of life, do not forget the necessity of engraving the teaching in you. Just as it's simple to receive individual nourishment, just as it is impossible to receive individual nourishment through a substitute or to learn a lesson by storing it in someone else's memory, you will not be able to present yourself in front of the supreme forces of wisdom and love by way of victories that you have not personally lived or personally achieved. Keep, therefore, within you what you heard from me as the pattern of sound teaching. And with that, dear friends, we would like to invite us all to close our eyes and to connect our hearts and our minds with God, our Creator, expressing gratitude for being in this beautiful planet one more day. Another day of blessings, another day of experiences, always assisted by our guardian angels or protector spirits who are always with us. We thank you, brothers and sisters, for your encouragement, for your inspiration, so much so that maybe we are here today because of you. And we are also grateful to our beloved Master Jesus for all his teachings, for all his love to all of us. We know, Master, you know every single one of us personally and watch over every single one of us through your emissaries and through your infinite love. We ask you, beloved Master, please help us in these few moments that we can connect through the lessons of love and strength and perseverance, that we can strengthen our hearts and our minds for the week ahead. Help us to stay connected to our brother Marcelo, and please bless him with your divine inspiration, so his heart and his mind opens up with all the goodness from his considerations, from his studies, from his experiences. Give him the peace and the calm that he needs for our brief meeting this morning. Thank you, and so be it. Dear Marcelo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marcos. Truly a pleasure, truly a honor to be here in this morning. As you mentioned, this beautiful morning, this beautiful Sunday morning. Our topic today leads us to a very important reflection: the need for charity, the need to be an instrument of peace. With small acts of charity, with small acts of kindness, small acts of any kind of good deeds can impact the life of many people. Not only will promote the beauty in this world that it's so in need of love, but it only will flourish the hearts of the ones that are giving this opportunity to connect with our loved brothers and sisters and being and trying to work to establish a new era for humanity. I am going to bring you a story that it's actually a true story that took place here in the state of Florida. This, if I'm not mistaken, this was September 2017. Pardon, I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Uh, well, the story is as I mentioned, is a true story, and I'm gonna change the slide. So before Irma hit, Irma was a hurricane that came to our state in 2017. So before Irma hit, a stranger gave the last generator to a crying woman for her ailing father. This is the story of Ramon Santiago in Penbrack and her ailing father. So the year was 2017. Hurricane Irma was making its way to Florida. Most of us, most of the Floridians, were getting their homes ready for a very strong storm, as it happens every year. So we hope this year it's not going to happen anything. Stores are crowded and people are searching for the essential items to board their windows and to prepare their homes for any possible damage. Ramon Santiago and Pen Brack were at that specific location at Lowe's, very close to Orlando area, hoping to get a generator because, as you know, sometimes we have lack of power, maybe for sometimes for weeks. So a generator will be something very essential in moments like that. So Ramon Santiago arrived first to receive that last generator that was in stock. But when Pan Brack realized she would not be able to get one, she became desperate. Her father, an ailing Korean war vet with congestive heart failure and a pacemaker, depending on that generator, she was expecting the worst. So Pan had driven about like 30 miles to be able to get that generator in that specific location, in that specific of hardwood store. But overcome with anguish, with the notice, with the thing that she was not able to get the last generator, she buried her head in her arms, like, and she would start crying, sobbing with desperation. But Ramon Santiago was very near to her, noticed that specific scene. He didn't speak English that well, but he asked her, "What was exactly what's wrong with you?" Uh, that's what his question to Pan Brack. He heard her story, and filled with compassion, he simply stated, "Ma'am, this generator is for you. You can take it. You need it more than I do." For Pan, it was completely surprising. A man she had never met before was so touched by her situation and placed that last generator into her cart. But the interesting thing is, Brack's moment happened to be captured by a news. It's a crew that was there, willing to capture moments of desperation, moments that we oftentimes happens in hardwood store before any hurricane strikes that specific location. And but the crew captures something completely different. They capture the embrace by two strangers, and they heard he consoling softly Ben Brack. "Everything is okay, man. Everything is fine." They were both embrace each other, and she was sobbing, so consoled, and she was so touched by that beautiful moment. That man that she never saw before, never met before, performing a small act of charity. When the little bit goes a long way, we never know what kind of impact in the life of others small acts of charity can promote. So the funny thing is, because this was very well documented, and if you Google it to find out about her story, and even the scene, this because you go to the YouTube and you see and you put Ramon Santiago and Pen Brack, you will see that specific moment that they are both embracing each other and consoling. Ramon was consoling her, and it was a very touching scene. But the funny thing is that the interesting thing is when Lowe's received a new shipment of generators, a couple of days later, they reach out to Ramon and gifted him with a new generator. So stories like these touch us every time we hear or we see stories like that. It shows us that within us, there's a seed of compassion and love that develops, that it grows, gains strength. It resonates with situations such as this one. This is just, I know, my friends, this is just one case, but there are many cases like that being performed by anonymous people. And cases like that, it takes place all around the world. What if we could be the promoters of this love, of the small acts of charity, small acts of kindness? What if we could change the things we do not appreciate in the world? I am assuring you, we can make a difference. Of course, we can make a difference. I remember music like you may think I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I guess it's John Lennon that said something like that. Well, here is when we start to understand that a little bit goes a long way, reverberating all over because stories like that impact our lives and we feel like doing something just like Ramon Santiago and many others. But I know sometimes we think like, oh, we should be, uh, you may be wishing there was a bit more kindness going around. Yes, perhaps, yes. Perhaps you are increasingly frustrated that with what making the news these days. We see, of course, in the news, senseless violence, crime, abuse of power, too many complications. And I'm certain sometimes we get discouraged of doing good deeds and doing good things because we are bombarded by the social media and all the news presenting us something that is contrary to that beautiful scene that took place in 2017 by Ramon Santiago and Pam Brack. But I'm certain that you and I can make a difference. We can change the world. We need when we preach, when we are very good in preaching, but we lack in the ability of performing what we preach. And the small acts of charity, small acts of kindness, when they are performed with sincere compassion, with sincere willing will of promoting the good, we take Jesus out of the cross and we uncrucify this man, as Joanna de Angelis stated once in one of her books. And we put him as a true companion with us, a therapist, offering us constantly the assistance and teaching us keep doing it, the good deeds, even though you see everything uh, contrary to your deeds. Be the one that promotes peace. Be the one that make the difference in the world, and try to establish a new proposition, a new era in the heart of man. And I know it's sometimes we making this analysis. Uh, how can we change? How can we promote this? Even with the oscillatory movements that we have nowadays with the pandemic, we see this world so much polarized. We see politics fighting for things that it shouldn't be the reason for fight, because the common good, the common goal for humanity should be the main objective of the humankind. But we know that we have different levels of evolution. We have different levels of advancement. We have different levels of awareness. And to live consciously, as our Spiritist centers promote, conscious living, it takes times and takes like many incarnations for us to be aware of that. But the point is, we cannot do huge transformation in the world, but we can do small acts of kindness. We can do baby steps. We can take baby steps. And once we do this, we're eager enough to do baby steps, we can establish this inner movement within. And I'm assured the power of kindness will develop this meekness, this awareness that are going to overcome the darkness phase of humanity that most of times are showing off in our world, in our media, in our social media. So small actions that can goes a long way. Small acts of kindness. It sometimes could be like a smiling to a stranger. And sometimes that smile, it's something that will contribute to turn the decision to make a change in somebody else's mind to commit suicide. There's so much loneliness in our world, so much pain. And all a person needs sometimes is to believe there's still goodness in the world, and we can be the ones promoting this kind of goodness. Perhaps, and this is just like an idea. We have like many ideas, and each one of us are in a certain field of society, and perhaps is about to mentoring a child, lending a hand to someone who needs help, one ear to someone who's lonely, sharing a positive thought, giving time or money to a cause. We do this sometimes. Forgiving someone who hurts us. Small acts of forgiveness. We don't expect to be the one that forgives something really huge that stroke our lives. But I'm assure you, if you build strength within performing small acts of forgiveness, you're going to be prepared one day for perform a huge act of forgiveness. And I'm going to tell you a very well kept secret. We all have the ability to bring joy and make a difference in the life of others. That's kindness. And we need more of it. Where there is sadness, as St. Francis of Assisi said once, let us bring joy. Let us be an instrument of Lord's peace. We can all be an instrument of Lord's peace. We have this example on St. Francis of Assisi. That's why when a little bit of effort can go a long way. I remember a phrase that my wife loves to say. It was said by a former nun, Karen Armstrong. She developed a charter of compassion, and she brings something that it's really interesting because what makes us, what brings us the courage to give the step forward towards in the directions of others. And Kara Armstrong says, like, dethroning ourselves from the center of the world and placing someone else there. So when we no longer think we are the center of the world, we develop an empathy with someone else, and we put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, and we can perform small acts of kindness. When Ramon Santiago gave that lady the last box, the last generator, he says, I can imagine what in a glimpse of that specific time passes through his mind. Maybe because he was hearing this her story in understanding her situation, the fragile lady. He put himself in her position and he simply take it. You need it more than I do. I'm strong. I'm able to overcome problems like that. So see how compassion and how empathy is different than sympathy. He put himself in the other side, identifying the fragility of that lady and understanding that only wills loving one another and performing, dethroning himself from the center of the world because she needs more than I do, placing someone there instead of us, we change the course probably of that woman thinking and believing in humanity and understanding that there is beautiful things to be accomplished. We change the world, the face of the world, when we change within. When Mahatma Gandhi says, be the change that you wish to see outside in the world, he was not simply throwing words. He was proposing something that Christ long ago had taught us, taught us, and guide us to love one another as we love ourselves. So those who make compassion an essential part of our lives, of their lives, find the joy of life. Kindness deepens the spirit and produces reward that cannot be completely explained in words. It is an experience much more powerful than words. And according to a psychotherapist from Missouri, Robert Furey, if I'm not mistaken, kindness is more than a philosophy of the mind. It is a philosophy of the spirit. And many researchers have stated that being kind can make us much more happier. Whenever someone engages in acts of kindness, no matter if these acts are big or small, levels of serotonin, this is a hormone, I'm sorry about the pronunciation. Levels of serotonin levels increase in both the ones that who gives and the ones who receive that specific act of kindness. And the thing interesting is the most interesting thing is anyone who witnesses an act of kindness also has an increase in serotonin levels. I was impacted when I saw, sorry about the phone. I was impacted by the story of Ramon Santiago and Pen Pratt. Probably my levels of serotonin went up when I saw that story. I was like, oh my God, I want to be just like Ramon Santiago. We all get touched by something like that. So the giver, the receiver, and those who witness the acts of kindness experience a boost in happiness. This is scientific. It's not only spiritism. This is scientific. A little bit of kindness definitely goes a long way. The next slide, it says like, in the last few years, researchers have looked at the so-called helper's high and its effect on the human body. Scientists are searching to understand just how altruism, the wish to perform good deeds, affects our heart, even our longevity. So I put here dopamine, serotonin. So dopamine and serotonin are brain chemicals. They're kind of like messengers, neurotransmitters that help to regulate many bodily functions. And they have these two these two neurotransmitters. They have roles in sleep and memory, on the metabolism and the well-being. People sometimes refer to dopamine and serotonin as the happy hormones due to the roles that they play in regulating the mood and the emotions. So they are also involved in several mental health conditions, including low mood and depression. So dopamine and serotonin are involved in several conditions and several body functions in the world. They control sometimes the sleep, the learning, the movements. I mean, like not the control. They influence many bodily functions, blood flow, alertness, even urine output. It's interesting how they perform these functions and they influence our physical condition. So when we see goodness, when we perform an act of kindness, when we receive an act of kindness, when we witnesses an act of kindness, these levels of hormones fluctuates in a good way inside of our body, promoting something magical, beautiful. See, the spirit, we are much more than simply a whole bunch of cells, flesh and bones and blood. We are much more. We see the spirit witnessing an act of charity and reflecting our physical body and making this beautiful um, completion. Maybe that's not the right word to use, but understanding that we need to witness as good things, good acts of kindness, good deeds. And when we are inserting in this beautiful examples that goes anonymously and sometimes reported by the news, we can be much more happier. I extract a portion, another slide that I brought to you. It's from the book The Way, the Truth and the Life, on chapter 31st, 31, stating something that I think it's important. The littlest things. What about the littlest things? Because when we see, I remember when I saw that specific scene and I witnesses many other acts of kindness. We have when we see that, it says, I want to do that, but I want to do much more. I want to feed the hunger. I want to save the poor. I want to transform the world. Sometimes it's our ego playing and pride playing a role inside of us, but we have beautiful examples and beautiful possibilities to initiate these small acts of kindness. And sometimes we don't need to go outside. Of course, we can do this outside too. But the first lesson, the first school for us to initiate small acts of kindness that will impact the life, the ones that are very close to us, is inside of our home. There's a passage in the Gospel of Luke in chapter 12, verse 26, that Emmanuel explains in this beautiful lesson, the littlest things. And the portion that Emmanuel extract in this book, since you cannot even do the littlest things, why are you anxious about the rest? And the explanation is given by Emmanuel, by the psychograph abilities of Francisco Cândido Xavier. Few people know the importance of doing the littlest things well. There are those who, out of a sense of false superiority look down on simple tasks as if they were dispensable for the success of more impressive works. A learned person must not forget that once upon a time he or she had to learn the simple letters of the alphabet. Moreover, no work can be completed rightly if the details are not duly considered and understood. In general terms, people are always fascinated by spectacular situations and dramatic or exciting events. However, being prominent demands much prudence. Thorns and stones can also be prominent on the daily pathway. That is why we need to attend to the littlest things on the road that God has reserved for us, so that what we do may be truly useful for our lives. A symphony would not be played properly if one note were missing, nor would a poem make sense if one verse were omitted. Let us mind the littlest things. They are an integral and inalienable part of a great accomplishment. Comprehending the importance of this fact, the Master asks us in the Gospel of Luke, since you cannot do even the littlest things, why are you anxious about the rest? And the other slide that we can bring, as I mentioned before, this littlest things could be placed, could be initiated, could be performed inside of our home. What would be the result for society if family ties were relaxed? A magnification of selfishness. In this school that we call home, that we call family, there is the main school for humanity. There, over there, we are going to face the biggest challenges because sometimes enemies from the past get together in a different form, in the form of a son, in the form of a daughter, in the form of a father or mother, trying to reinitiate, to reset the love button so we can recapture the moment that we missed in the other life. And littlest things sometimes play a difference and a big role when we try to capture the attention, to conquer the love of someone that once we hurt so much. Littlest things can be examined by the Christian and the Spiritist family when we are aware that something needs to be done first inside of our homes. We usually try to change the world outside, which is noble. And of course, it's something that needs to be done. But the small acts of kindness and compassion, when they are practiced in the cell that we call home, in the cell that we call family, in this first school presented by our Father, I can assure you we are going in the right direction. We are doing the right path and trying to establish something that was very well placed in question 886 of the Spirit's book. What is the right? What is the true meaning, the true definition of the word charity, as Jesus understand it? Benevolence towards everyone, indulgence toward the imperfections of others, and forgiveness for offenses. These three virtues, these three uh, uh, words, benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness play a big role in the constructions of the life of the Spirit, initiating, promoting the base for a beautiful future that are going to arise if we very well um, form this base. The definition of charity, bringing these three words, and also in the book, in the Spirit's book that we are going to read, the comment by the Spirits and by Allan Kardec, after that, he says that love and charity supplement the law of justice because loving our neighbors is is to do them all the good possible, all that we would wish to be done to ourselves. Such is the meaning of Jesus' words. Love one another as brothers. And he keep going. Charity, according to Jesus, is not restricted to almsgiving, but embraces all our relations with our fellow humans, whether in situations below, equal or superior to our own. It orders us to be indulgent because we need indulgence ourselves, and it forbids us to humiliate the unfortunate, contrary to what is commonly practiced. Whenever wealthy persons seek us out, we regard them with an overabundance of consideration and attention. But whenever a poor person seeks us out, it seems like we do not want to be troubled by them. However, the more pitiable the situation of the latter, the more we should refrain from increasing their disgrace through humiliation. Those who are truly charitable seek to uplift the self esteem of those in lower positions, thereby diminishing the distance between both. This is the book that I was reading, the Spirit's book, bringing the explanation of this word called charity. And we can all are able to perform charity, not only giving alms, transforming a cause, giving money to an institution, but performing small acts of charity, small acts of compassion in our daily lives, especially nowadays in the pandemic times, that maybe God is inviting us to get ourselves together in one cell, in this place that we call home, to reinitiate, to reset the button that once a long time ago was needed to be resetted, but we missed that opportunity. Now is the chance. I know sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's difficult because we have our baggage that call us the attention to a self-examination, as we see the question 919, the know thyself, as Allan Kardec was asking the spirits, what is the best way for us to evolve, to be a better person? Know thyself, said a sage in antiquity, is the answer of the spirit Saint Augustine. And I would like to end our talk and bring something about this letter to the Corinthians that Paul sent to this community in Corinthians. The need for charity according to Paul. What he brings us is something that it's our goal. Even though we are far away from this, we need to have goals so we can, in making this observation on a daily basis, we see how far we are and looking at this horizon that awaits each and every one of us, promoting and calling us, come, you can do it. You can perform not only small acts of charity, but you're going to be prepared to perform beautiful, huge amounts of charity, huge amount of transforming the world, changing first this this world that resides within. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, we feel like changing the world outside without paying attention to our hearts. Let's try to pay attention to our hearts, making this examination. Because as Paul says, even if I were to speak all the languages of man and the language of the angels themselves, if I did not have charity, I would be only like a sounding gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I were to have the gift of prophecy and grasped all mysteries, and if I had a perfect knowledge of all things, and if I had all the faith possible to the point of moving mountains, if I did not have charity, I would be nothing. And if I were to distribute my belongings to feed the poor and delivered my body to be burned, if I did not have charity, none of this would be of any use of me. Charity, according to Jesus, benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards imperfection, and forgiveness of the offenses. This kind of charity is patient. It is kind and benevolent. It is not envious. It is not rash or hurried. It is not full of pride. It is not scornful. It does not look after its own interest. It does not take offense or become upset by anything. It does not suspect evil. It does not rejoice in injustice, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes in all things, hopes for all things, endures all things. Now, these three virtues remain: faith, hope, and charity, but among them, the most excellent is charity. I forgot to change the slide. This is the first letter to the Corinthians, and this has to be read and reread over and over again. And even though we are so far away from this goal, we can initiate this long journey by the first step. But the first step requires courage from men and women. They are willing to change not only the world, but the most difficult, to change ourselves and to initiate one of the biggest revolution in the world, the revolution that takes place in the heart of men and women. I am finishing this lecture with a suggestion of a movie, uh, and the movie is Same Kind of Different as Me. It's a true story that tell us. Well, it's a true story based on the an inspiring true story of international art dealer Ron Hall, who befriends a homeless man in hopes of saving his struggling marriage to Deborah, his wife, a woman whose dreams will lead all three of them in one of the most remarkable journey of their lives. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. When small acts of charity that was performed by that couple, inspired by that woman, Deborah, and transforming the life of her husband and transforming the life of that homeless and not only him, but the whole community around them. Same kind of different as me. It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful movie. It's a real story that we can be inspired to do something different in our lives. This is the end of our talk. I hope you enjoy uh, sharing a few considerations about this moments of this 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 attitude, this behavior that we can promote within transforming our lives, transforming the lives of others, uh, performing good deeds, small acts of kindness. And as Marco Declay invite me to close um, our meeting and performing our final prayer. But in this final prayer, I would like to, uh, since the lecture, since the topic that was assigned to us is um, how can a little bit goes a long way, I would like to remember the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi when he asked the Lord to help him to be an instrument of his peace. And he asking the Lord, where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, help us, Lord, to be the one that brings faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, help us to be the one that promotes light. Where there's sadness in this world full of sadness, help us to be the one with small acts of kindness to bring joy. Oh, Divine Master, grant that we all may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be the one that understand much more than we wish to be understood, to be the one who love much more than we desire, we wish to be loved. For it is in giving that we are going to receive. It is in pardoning that we are going to be pardoned. And it is in dying this old man for a new moment, for new circumstances in our lives, promoting good acts of deeds, good acts of kindness, dethroning ourselves from the center of the world and putting someone else there, that we are going to achieve this eternal happiness, this eternal life that awaits for each and every one of us, promoting the good that it's still since the beginning awaits us for us to join as that shepherd has always asked, come unto me, who are weary, and I will console you, I will embrace you, I will understand you, and I will love you as I always loved you since the beginning of times. And with these words, I thank you the moments that we had together in finishing the lecture with this blessed opportunity to be here among you. So be it.
So be it. Thank you, Marcelo. On behalf of the Conscious Living family, on behalf of everyone who is watching us through around the world, thank you very much for the boost of energy and faith and encouragement you gave us, inspired by our beloved Master. So thank you very much. And before we conclude, I just wanted to remind everyone that the conscious living is physically closed, but we continue with our activities, as everyone knows. And we would like to leave here as a small reminder for those who are able to make a contribution and would like to do so. We leave here a little QR code that you can use your mobile phone or take a picture for it, or go through our website as well and make a contribution if you can. Independent of that, we wish everyone a blessed week ahead, and may we keep all those spiritual gifts we've received in these last few minutes to give us the strength and the encouragement and the perseverance in the week ahead. So thank you all very much. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much,